George Bellows was a member of a very prominent family in Columbus, Ohio. His father was an extremely successful builder and architect, built the county courthouse and many other prominent buildings in the city of Columbus.
At the time he is going to school in the late 19th century, there were 4 institutions in the United States that were known for their art programs, in which they provided art for all children, and they had excellent teachers, and Columbus was the one here. The other 3 are in New England. And so the fact that he went to Central High School, which by the way his father had designed, really puts him in a very rarefied area. He really does kind of have to fight his father about becoming an artist.
He encouraged him to become an architect, an engineer, as he had done. And basically, George has to not show up for one of his final exams to convince him that he really doesn't want to get a degree in that area of study at Ohio State. So that message gets through to his father, and his father gives him an allowance and sends him off to one of the best art schools in the country in New York City, and I think very apprehensively. So essentially when he gets to New York, it's quite a transition for him from this fairly traditional background in which they celebrated simple virtues of everyday living to an environment where he had great wealth and affluence and a celebration of that by many of the artists who painted in a genteel mode only the most elegant, rarefied aspects of society in New York City. And then that's juxtaposed with what he sees every day, where he's walking past kids that are swimming in filthy river, seeing tremendous poverty. And he really becomes fascinated by that. And he's such a genius at drawing that he is enabled to be able to bring that to his art. And he really was the master of realism at that time.
He keeps returning again and again to Columbus, even though he marries a woman who is from New York. And he paints his father here, he paints other scenes in Columbus.
Bellows was very supportive of the fledgling museum in Columbus and really encouraged a number of his important friends to participate in exhibitions of realism at the Carnegie Library, which is where the precursor to the Columbus Museum had exhibition space. And actually, one of those exhibitions was quite controversial because some images were brought in that some of the town fathers didn't approve of.
Some of them depict male nudes, and others are boxing scenes. And Columbus technically has a law against pugilism. Not that there was anything blue-stocking about the men of Columbus. It was just a very segregated world of dominating morality. And there is a great deal of discussion about, should he be able to show these or not? And eventually a deal is struck and compromise, and they take those questionable paintings and they put him aside in a room. And it's really the men's room only that can view them. Women can't see them.
They were considered too graphic or intense for the genteel society of Columbus at that time. He was instrumental in bringing people in for teaching at the Columbus Art School. He did a number of portraits of professors for Ohio State University and traveled back and forth to visit his family on a regular basis. So he didn't forget his hometown.